fitted with an American half-track. This is an earlier type of Sherman. If we're trying to be spotty, look at the gun on that one compared to the one that came on earlier. Smaller gun, what's called a 75mm gun, or 7.5 centimetres. The longer barrelled one is only 16,000 of them made in various different configurations for all sorts of use, given to the Allies as well as part of these. So you'll see that even though it's an American vehicle, that one thing, there's a nice big hole in the middle of the arena. Things that would be done because, for example, shell holes, what are we going to fill them in? It ends up having its own variations of many types of civilian vehicles. Quite often, sometimes they look just beaches. And of course, we've also got some lovely heavy trucks coming on now, all the logistics and supplies. Most of us here probably like all the tanks, the fighting weaponry, famous line, amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. Logistics human. So there's a Diamond T followed by a stunningly the British Army after World War II to tow our 8-inch howitzers. In the re-invasion of Europe, in the battles in the Pacific, you can put the load in the back, whether that's fuel, ammunition, supplies, and float them ashore from bigger ships. American trucks supplied not just to the American Army, of course, as with so many of these vehicles, down to the Soviet-Russian forces. Most of Russia's supplies were brought up to the front line on American trucks. As far as you can, track mileage, in other words, how far you go on your track is always a limit. Hope for the best that way, to actually carrying them off that way. You see some of the vehicles, they've got metal tracks. The differences between them in the war, but metal tracks can really make a mess of the road. So in Britain now, if you look at all NATO countries, Britain, all our track vehicles have to have rubber tracks on. It back, it had an even bigger gun on it. He's converted it back to start looking like a Sherman would. Now, I think when these vehicles park up, we'll go and have a quick word with one or two of the drivers, and no doubt they'll be able to tell us one or two more things about them. Just before I move over there, this one's M24 Chappie, a light tank built for the American military, sea service in the second half of 1944. Shows how improvements happen over. And only about an angled armour plate on the front of this vehicle. It only weighed about 18 tons. They could get it up to just those first tank destroyers. Put it a good, powerful gun on a half track. Make that quicker so it can race to where the fighting is and try and knock out tanks that way. The Americans start with a half track, they move on to the M10, then the M8 76mm gun, one with a shorter barrel. The shorter barrel, for some reason this morning everyone's getting a bit shy. Massive great piece of American kit, very small army, not much money spent on the military. But the whole idea, if war came, the American theory was going to be we throw money at the problem. So in the first, add them together, put them all together, and then we'll start manufacturing. And in 1940, Roosevelt sets up this fantastic committee of people, heads of William Nuttree, following the Henry Ford method. In other words, mass production of lots and lots of things. There over the Ural Mountains and reassembling the factories, and in doing so they realised also you can make a tank a lot quicker and cheaper by the gun, because the recoil would have basically smashed your radio on the back of the turret. For fire support, you could be firing not only armour piercing but high explosive rounds. The war only could fire armour piercing. It was not bad at trying to knock out other tanks. It was just you certainly didn't want to be in a vehicle like that if the enemy tank saw you, because you've got that roller was supposed to help roll you up the slope. On other vehicles you'll see winches sometimes. Army till into the 1990s, before Israel got rid of them. And again, for the collector's market, lots of those countries that were supplied with American kit after the Second World War, it became a great source. Greece, Norway. America had tried to lure Tito from the communist camp by giving him lots of military equipment. Sherman tanks, high-speed tractors, all sorts of things around.